assignment.
Yes, we talked about those 3 key point words, and those words were created, made, and formed. Those are the 3 words we talked about that we will be discussing tonight. Created, made, and formed. And the reason for that is, it's so important because when you're talking about God and his eternal mindset, you still can't understand him in that place. Yeah. So he comes to us as Father. But he does it in a way that's so, what we call process. And he does it in the created order. In Genesis 1:1 it says what? In the beginning God created the heavens and the earth. That is his sovereignty. Then he goes into the made order, and then he goes into the formed order. What do you mean by that? He created man in his image. Genesis 1:27, 1:28. Right? It says in Genesis 1:27, so God created man in his own image. In the image of God, he created him.
Yes, he did.
See? So, but it's something very important about that piece. Now, we know that in this created order, it's still in an order that is sovereign. It's still in an order that's not yet seen. Even though we're reading it, it's inspired by Moses to write this, but at this particular order, nothing has come into existence yet. God created man. He's still not in existence where he's seen until he gets to that last order called formed.
Wow. And
we'll find that in Genesis 2:7. Genesis chapter 2:7 says, and the Lord God formed man of the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living being. Now it's the manifestation of what God had in mind. See? So we got the created order, the made order, and the formed order. Okay? So that same thing with life. It's a process. If you have a creative idea, correct? And you're still getting it together in your mind, guess what? It may be 5 years before it hit form.
Or even longer, depending upon the laws of the land, access to the materials and the resources.
All that.
Because back in the day, computers were something they had way back in the 60s and all. But they couldn't it was in a creative state because only the Pentagon and some of those places or your huge IBMs had access because it was massive. It would fill this room.
Oh, yes.
And we couldn't afford it. And then came, absolutely.
Then the made order is when they come together and begin to bring structure. How can we present it?
But vision is needed for all of it.
Oh, no doubt, no doubt. And the creative order exposes vision.
It exposes vision.
Right. And that's because you have a vision. That doesn't mean the rubber's going to hit the road per se.
Absolutely.
The rubber hitting the road, or, in that order where it's really become pragmatic.
So God envisioned man.
Already.
Envisioned man.
In the mind of God, everything in man was already perfect. See?
Now, wait, man of God. Say that one more time.
Yeah, in the mind of God, which is sovereign, everything in man was already perfect.
So he didn't abandon mankind, even though he knew that that the fall was going to happen. In his mind, with all the flaws that he knew would exist, he did not abandon the perfection of humanity that he perceived, conceived, and then
concerning man,
and then made happen.
That's the purpose in having to come with salvation. See, he had to save his idea. He couldn't look. His original intent was perfection.
Say that one more time.
He had to save his idea.
One more time.
He had to save and preserve.
One more time.
He had to save his idea.
Like we save documents on a flash drive. Because we know the computer might crash, so we save it.
I love that. That's a good example. I love that because you got to always have that salt, something to preserve the light of God. That's why he has salt and light. They go together. You got to have something to preserve the originality, the original plan of God. So even though he already knew that Adam would sin, even though he knew Lucifer would rebel, he still knew Jesus.
And then came grace as that preservative. Is that right?
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. And you know what? Not being funny, a lot of people have what I call schizophrenia when it comes to grace. They got this real twisted mind. That's not picking and taunting. They have a real twisted mindset when it comes to grace. Grace itself is perfect.
Ooh.
Listen, grace is perfect. Grace is loving. Come on, grace is not tormenting. It's not taunting. It's not saying you're not going to be saved. If you've done that, you're no longer saved. Grace is perfect.
Grace is perfect.
And he gave it to an imperfect people. See? The thing is, grace don't make you perfect. Grace is access to what God has.
So you're saying that man cannot control the content of grace?
There's no.
It is just what it is in its fullness. And it cannot be diminished.
No, it can't.
Its power and its ability.
And it's available.
You can't siphon it out, dilute it. There are no currents running through it.
It's available.
So, like the internet,
access.
Never offline.
It's access.
It's never offline.
And I love that you said that, because I can vividly remember when I didn't have a clue what grace was. Wow. See? But it was already available long before 2006 inside of a penitentiary bathroom. See, it was already available.
My God, my God.
So my mother and them are praying, and saints are praying for me to receive salvation. It wasn't that so much of that the prayer was that did it. It was the fact that grace was already available. See, so they decreed some things for me to come into alignment. See, but God already knew the exact date. See, that's His grace again, His love, is that I'm having something available for you that's always been there.
So the perfection of God's understanding of what you were going to do was established according to Jeremiah 1:5, and then you walked into that which God had already decreed.
I walked into prophetic destiny.
You walked into the environment of grace, which was, wait a minute. The sad thing is it was always there.
It was always there. What the saints were doing was charging the word. When they was praying for me to receive salvation, they was actually charging for what was already available. It wasn't a creative idea for them praying about it. They were just blowing and breathing over what God has already destined.
Oh, my goodness.
So I walked right into prophetic destiny. When you receive salvation, you walk right into prophetic destiny.
Yielding is what you did.
Yielded to what was already available.
You yielded what was already available.
And guess what happens now? Now a whole other blueprint comes into play. All that happened before
a shifting happened.
What happens, we got to receive that.
Yeah.
That's kingdom. Kingdom is always available. It's like you said, is it a place? Yeah, it is a place. And it's called reality. Is it a time? Well, it's times of time. That means there's a moment when God said, this is it.
Oh.
You know what? You got to meet this appointment. And guess what? You can end up in a car accident. Come on. You can end up in a hospital, or you can end up in a penitentiary. At this time, you cannot avoid this appointed time that God says, I'm going to give you opportunity on this moment for grace.
Everybody's been given an opportunity.
And the beautiful thing about it, there's two things about the kingdom I love. Redeemed and reconciled. Please jot that down. We're talking about the created, made, and formed. And we're segueing right into what the kingdom really is in nature. It's sovereign in nature and it's eternal. But here's what we got to understand. It comes into time. See? It comes into time, right? And as it comes into time, it takes on words. And one main word it takes on is redeemed. And it takes on reconciled. See, because in the beginning, when He created everything, it's perfect, right?
That's right.
So that's kingdom. So when He comes in and redeems, He reconciles. Now, what is about those who are unsaved? The reality is, if you really peel that back, there's no such thing. Because they're already reconciled. They just are not redeemed yet. That's right. So what we do as saints, we're supposed to upgrade them. We're supposed to meet people who don't know that they are reconciled and to begin to speak the gospel of the kingdom to them, that they're come to upgrade called redemption.
Well, man of God, what if we don't know that we've been redeemed and reconciled?
That's called, that's powerful.
We've got to recognize that we've been redeemed and reconciled in order to invite someone else into that moment.
That is powerful.